Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm going to be bringing you guys a regrade of the 2020 NFL Draft. I'm going to go over every single pick inside of the first round and give you guys a rundown on how I feel about each and every single pick and how they have played in their rookie season. There's also going to be a point of understanding that these players are young and that they're going to develop, and then there's going to be points of me just thinking some of these guys are just completely atrocious and will never really make it as an NFL player based upon what I talk about in this video. You guys might want to buckle in and grab some popcorn because this is going to be a long ride of fun through the 2020 NFL Draft. If you guys want to see me do this for the 2019 draft, 2018 draft, something like that, please let me know down below. And while you're down there, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you are new. I post all types of NFL content centered around the NFL, NFL Draft, as well as fantasy football. So if you guys want to win your 2021 fantasy football league, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. So Joe Burrow was the first pick in the NFL Draft, and that should have came to the surprise of absolutely fucking nobody. This guy gets an A, in my opinion, for what he did. Now, going into the draft, Joe Burrow was going to be the #1 guy, like I said. Everyone pretty much knew that, even though coming into the season, he was looked at as being one of those later round draft picks going into college football season. The guy obviously wins the Natty, he wins the Heisman, he does everything, so then he becomes the first overall pick, pretty much undisputed. I really didn't see anyone picking anyone besides Joe Burrow at the 101. Kind of like how this year you don't see anyone projecting someone besides Trevor Lawrence going at the first overall spot. Joe Burrow lived up to the expectations and the hype in 2020 before tearing his ACL week 11 up against the Washington football team. The Bengals only went 2-7-1 in that time. If you guys remember that thrill ride of a tie up against the Philadelphia Eagles, he did play great in that time, though, even with a poor record with a 65.3% completion ratio on his 2,688 passing yards, throwing 13 touchdowns, I should say, on 5 INTs, also rushing the ball 37 times for 142 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. While you wouldn't look at this season and think, hey, this guy's the greatest fucking rookie on earth, you might not think that he was even the best rookie quarterback of the year. Justin Herbert was. But with that said, he still played very good in a situation that is not great, considering Joe Burrow's offensive line is about as useful as a turnstile. It seems like if Joe Burrow comes back healthy in 2021, this guy was the perfect pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. He would have gotten an A+, but again, there's obviously the worries that since he tore his ACL, he may not return as good as he came into the league or how he played in his rookie season. Again, it's all speculation when you're talking about injury, so we just gotta hope Joe Burrow returns to the former glory he had, and I expect nothing but big things out of Joe Burrow, so he, as the first player of the draft, gets an A. Next player up is Chase Young of the Washington football team. They were not the football team when they drafted him, but they are now. Chase Young, D-end out of the Ohio State University, and he gets an A+. He is also one of those players that was just so highly touted coming into the league. He was really a no-brainer pick at the #2 spot for Washington. It seems like people were talking about him even being the best player in the draft outside of Joe Burrow, maybe even the better player than Joe Burrow, but again, they play different positions, so it's kind of hard to put them together, if you know what I'm saying. So he had a very dominant 2020 NFL season, which is likely going to give him the nod as the defensive rookie of the year in his 15 games. Chase Young had 32 solo tackles, 12 assisted tackles, 3 fumble recoveries for 57 yards and a tug. While looking at this elite pass rusher like Chase Young, unless he did terrible, right? Unless this guy was a complete and utter bench warmer, didn't play at all like he played out of Ohio State, it would be pretty much a no-brainer to give him anything besides an A or an A+. He really lived up to my expectations as well as Washington fans, so I'm really big fan of Chase Young, and I'm glad he put up a great year, granting him that A+. Next player off the board was Jeff Okudah to the Detroit Lions, cornerback out of the Ohio State University. 2 Ohio State boys going back-to-back Michael Jordan 96-97 in the 2020 NFL Draft. Sadly, we really didn't see see that much of Jeff Okudah in the 2020 NFL season. He only played 6 of his 9 games. Nice, he only started those 6 of 9 games, I should say. And he was injured week 11 up against the Carolina Panthers. Okudah was getting torched like he was at the end of fucking Survivor this season, if I'm being completely honest with you. It was pretty fucking embarrassing for a guy that got picked at the 3rd spot, and that's frankly why he earned his D grade. He was targeted 50 times in 2020 and allowed a 112.0 passer rating. That's not very good. If you're the cornerback, if you're on the offense, that is very good, and it's understandable why they were targeting Jeff Okudah so much in these games. But you have to also bake in the fact that local rocket science Matt Patricia probably fucked Jeff Okudah right in the no-no square. His rookie campaign wasn't all that great, but I haven't seen enough to really give him an F. I think he could be an A, but based on what I saw, I'm going to be honest with you, I am worried about Jeff Okudah going forward. It seems like even I could have stepped in, give me the fucking helmet, put me in. I could have ran a slant all over Jeff Okudah like my name was Slant God Michael Thomas, so Jeff Okudah gets a D. But again, all these guys have the upsides of being complete and utter dumpster fires the rookie year and being amazing, or being the greatest player on earth in the rookie season and then flaming out completely. Next pick at number 4 was Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle out of Georgia for the New York Football Giants, and he gets a C+ grade in my book. Now, the tackle class this season in 2020 was so top-loaded with 4 guys who could have went at this pick, at least in my opinion, so it made sense that the Giants, who needed a tackle to protect Vanilla Vic, Daniel Dimes, as well as Saquon Barkley, it would make sense that they would take an offensive tackle. So, while he wasn't the greatest tackle on earth, he only gave up 10 sacks on 57 pressures, which isn't great. He started off the season playing bad. This guy was downright down bad, down terrible, but then he improved as the season went on. So being a much-needed piece of the New York Football Giants offensive line, I'll give him a C+. I'll give him a passing grade. I think the upside for Andrew Thomas is amazing, but it seems like maybe they should have picked a different O-tackle. But again, this guy's really the only bright spot of the Giants offensive line because the rest of them are pretty much a goddamn sieve. And number 5, my Miami Dolphins select Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback out of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, Tua gets a B- grade, but man, oh man, was this not what I expected out of Tua Tagovailoa. Coming into the year as a Dolphins fan, I was higher than Elon Musk, as Lil Uzi Vert would say, on Tua. I really was. I was riding high. I was celebrating in the street, buck naked. That's how happy I was. I thought this man was going to blast the Miami Dolphins straight to the moon, straight through the goddamn moon, and into Jupiter. But my assumption was wrong because I originally pictured Tua honestly only playing a couple of games. Thought maybe he plays 3 games at the end of the season. I thought we'd be like a 6-7 win team. I didn't see us being this good at all. So Tua was jolted into a very, very hard spot. Because they're playing for these wins, he has to try to win. He's doing all he could. And then they tug him from 2 games. Gets pulled twice. I don't know what to think about Tua, to be honest with you. I feel like the nerds on Twitter, the nerds on the internet who are going after Tua, calling this guy a bust, frankly, makes no sense. He is not a bust. But he didn't show enough to get anything higher than a B-. He wasn't atrocious, but he wasn't great. He wasn't the Tua that we saw playing college ball. But then you also have to put in the fact that this guy is in the COVID rookie season, with Corona, doesn't have preseason, coming into the season with a hip surgery. So I'll give him a couple of kind of scapegoats. But again, I'm not saying Tua was amazing. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that. I just don't think he earns the grade of being a bust. I think B- is fair for a quarterback as talented as Tua Tagovailoa going into his 2nd NFL season. The next pick here, this one was the greatest pick inside of the first 6 picks, strictly because this was a straight up fucking steal. Justin Herbert goes at the 106 to the Los Angeles Chargers, and he grants himself an A+ plus, at least in my book. Justin Herbert was highly doubted by many, including myself. I was completely sold off of Justin Herbert, and he hit me and everyone else with the 619 Rey goddamn Mysterio, likely being the offensive rookie of the year. It is very, very deserved. After Tyrod Taylor got stabbed by the doctor because his doctor was doing his Johnny Sins impression, Herbert stepped in up against the Kansas City Chiefs and probably should have won that game if the kicker didn't completely screw the pooch for him. Herbert threw for over 4,000 yards, granting 4,336 passing yards for 31 tugs and 10 INTs, as well as having a decent rushing season, 55 rushes for 234 rushing yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns. Obviously, he's no Lamar Jackson in the rushing game. He's no Kyler Murray, but those numbers are not to be underappreciated. It is frankly amazing. Not too much to say about Justin Herbert, right? I threw out his numbers. The guy's fucking amazing. He proved everyone wrong. And in 2021, if he is able to play like this and get slightly better, this man is going to be a menace to the NFL for years to go on. And I really was wrong about this pick, and I'll happily admit it now. And I've admitted it multiple times during the season. Justin Herbert is a fucking beast and could be the best quarterback drafted in this class. He was his rookie year, but Joe Burrow got hurt. But again, that is not undermining Justin Herbert's elite success in his 2020 rookie season. Next pick here was Derrick Brown going to the Carolina Panthers, defensive tackle out of Auburn, granting him a B grade. Brown came into the draft being what most believe the best defensive tackle in the draft. Out of Auburn, he was amazing run stopper. Interesting enough, during his season as a Panther, he was much better up against the pass rusher, being a pass rusher, obviously, opposed from being a nice run stopper, which is interesting. A guy completely doing a fucking 180 in the middle of the season, but hey, it is what it is. As long as he's good at stopping both of these things, that's what the Carolina Panthers are looking for. In 15 games, he only pressured the quarterback 34 times. I can only assume that as Brown plays longer in the Carolina Panthers system with Rule, he will continue to be a much better player, and his true skill set will be shown off as the future goes on. This guy was not complete dog water. He wasn't completely awful. He wasn't completely amazing. I feel like a B grade is very fair for Derrick Brown. He didn't live up necessarily to the expectations of being the best D tackle in the draft, being this amazing player, but again, he wasn't awful, so I'll happily put Derrick Brown at a B grade for this year. Next player up here is Isaiah Simmons, linebacker out of Clemson, the 8th pick to the Arizona Cardinals. Simmons was a very interesting pick at the time and was dubbed as a very good player coming into the draft. Now, he does get a grade of a B for the season, strictly because I don't really know what to think about Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons did not come into the season instantly starting in the lineup. They're moving this fucking guy around like he was a lady in the night in Las Vegas, meaning he was playing multiple positions. I'm pretty sure the guy played kicker at some point in the season based upon how much they moved him around and the fact that he probably would have been better than that bum Zane Gonzalez. Going into the draft, he was supposed to be an amazing player, like I said, with potential top 3 player value, but we have not seen that out of him yet. We haven't even seen top 10 value, really, out of Isaiah Simmons. The hype brought out of Clemson. He gets the B, but that's because he hasn't really gotten the opportunity to shine, that I think, and he hasn't really been a complete and utter dumpster fire to gain him anything lower than a B. I would understand if someone gave him a C, but I think he sits perfectly fine out a B, given he didn't play that much and his prowess coming out of Clemson. The 9th overall pick of the draft comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars when they select cornerback C.J. Henderson out of Florida. Now, Henderson gets a B- rating or grade on the season. Henderson was drafted to a good spot here in Jacksonville, where I feel like he was not correctly put in a spot where you can judge him, right? This is a good spot because this is a very, very young Jacksonville Jaguars team, but he kind of gets fucking just thrown out there naked, butt naked, and he's just going to get fucked out there because he really has no chance when the whole defense is so young. Being a corner is one of the hardest positions to transition to, going from college to the pro level, plus being on a team that is pretty much a revolving door at defense since they were the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple of years ago. He played quite well. He was targeted 46 times and allowed 30 receptions and acquired 1 INT in those games, granting him an average of a 57.9 PFF rating. Given how coming out of college he was likely touted to be one of those top guys, and he was dumped into a shithole and didn't perform all that bad. I feel like him and Simmons are kind of in a similar spot where we didn't see anything really bad out of them, but we didn't see anything super amazing. So Henderson falls here as a B- for the Jaguars. Next pick, here we got Jedrick Wills going to the Cleveland Browns out of Alabama, offensive tackle. Now he gets an A because pretty much every single time you draft an offensive tackle that is going to be your franchise guy, you're going to get an A. Unless that guy isn't as great as the expectations, kind of like we saw with Andrew Thomas. Maybe that's just because he was drafted inside the top 4, probably is, but Jedrick Wills did have a very good season in Cleveland, even with all the injuries surrounding the offensive line for the team. While he never played left tackle before, he looked very good playing it inside of the NFL. He fit the scheme perfectly and was blocking very well for a strong rushing offense under Nick Chubb and Mr. Kareem Hunt, because their new head coach, or the head coach that was new to them this year, is a run-heavy guru. I talked about this a lot in videos in the past, where coming from Minnesota, he turned Dalvin Cook into a goddamn monster like the energy drink, and I think that Jedrick Wills is going to be an amazing fit for years to come. He only allowed 4 sacks, playing 957 total snaps on the year. A knock on him would be all the penalties, because he got 11 penalties, which is one of the most at the position, but I will not knock him for that. It seems like the Browns made the correct pick here at 10, so I can't really knock him on anything aside from giving up those penalties, but again, that just happens sometimes. You know, it is what it is. At number 11, the New York Football Jets go with another O-tackle here. At pick 11, Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. Mekhi Becton gets an A grade. Another case of a team securing a lineman for the future. There isn't really too much to think about here. You just talk about a guy that is going to be the guy for the future, who played pretty well despite the rest of the offensive line being not too hot. I'm sure he will be able to develop into a better tackle as the years go on, so I don't feel like knocking him here. He's got the A. Again, I don't really want to go super in-depth on the blocking techniques of an offensive tackle in this video. A lot of people come to hear about the skill positions, so I go a little more in-depth on them. Next pick, here we got Henry Ruggs to the Las Vegas Raiders at pick number 12 out of Alabama. This pick can only be described as it was a sexy pick at the time, right? Being the first wide receiver off the board, it was like Henry Ruggs has this explosive ability, Tyreek Hill 2.0, this, that, and the other thing, but frankly, he just did not live up to it, and that's why he got a C- grade. I honestly thought about giving him a D+, because again, he was the first wide receiver off the board. With how good we saw Ayuk be, with how good we saw Justin Jefferson be, with how good we've seen a lot of these rookie wide receivers be, even with a COVID offseason, it just seems dumb that the Raiders drafted Henry Ruggs here. And Ruggs literally does run like Lightning McQueen, like I was saying, but he never really found his spot in his offense. And when you're getting outperformed by a guy who is known to have 0 hands in Nelson Aguilar, it's tough to give him anything above a C-. Ruggs played in 13 games and had 43 targets for 26 receptions and 452 yards and 2 touchdowns. For only having 26 receptions, it's amazing that he had 452 yards. But again, this guy's a deep down the field burner. This is what we expect out of Henry Ruggs, but him not getting very well targeted because he just wasn't that open, because Nelson Aguilar is outplaying him, to me, is a little bit worrisome. Again, when you miss on a guy that's a natural-born fucking Greek god Adonis like Justin Jefferson, it's hard to give this a very good grade because of what they missed out on being the first team to select a wide receiver. Now, if they were like third up and they took Ruggs over Lamb or something like that, then maybe you wouldn't judge as much. But based upon where they took him, I just feel like this was not all that great of a pick. And I'm really looking to see if we'll see more out of Ruggs in 2021. Because if he puts up a similar year, people are going to be quickly putting the label of a bust on this guy like he was Mia Malkova's face. Now, next pick here, we got Tristan Wirfs going back to the O tackles after seeing Mekhi Becton go at 11 and Wills go at 10. Tristan Wirfs goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers O tackle out of Iowa. He gets an A. Another case of a franchise tackle that is very good in his first ever year. He took an offensive line that wasn't amazing for Jameis Winston last year, and this guy was given the job of protecting football's great to the seventh power grandfather, Tampa Bay Tom Brady. He did so well. He did this with perfection and helped the team reach the Super Bowl. Again, I don't know if they won the Super Bowl or not because this is before that, but he was a big help for the team, granting himself an 82.2 PFF grade, allowing only 1 sack on 1,073 snaps, which is obviously really good. Again, don't really want to harp too hard on these tackles, so you get your franchise guy. Very simple, cut and dry. You get an A grade for this pick. Javon Kinlaw was the next pick here out of South Carolina to the San Francisco 49ers, and he gets a B+ grade. Now, the 49ers selected defense in the first round, which shouldn't have surprised anyone because the 49ers love to have a strong defense, and even with severe injuries to this team, in the 2020 season, the 49ers defense was still very good. Is that because of Saleh, the coach? Or is it because they're good players? Who really knows? We will see next year because now he is the head coach of the New York Football Jets. PFF did not grant Kinlaw an excellent grade, giving him a 54.1 on the season, picking up 2 sacks, I should say, and 24 solo tackles in 14 games, as well as acquiring a pick 6. While the numbers aren't amazing, I think he will fit in well in his second year for this 49er system who loves to rush that passer. I really do like the pick here for Javon Kinlaw. Next up at 15, we see Jerry Jeudy, another case of a receiver getting drafted early who kind of disappointed, just like with the other Alabama wide receiver in Mr. Henry Ruggs. This is Jeudy this time. B- out of Alabama to the Denver Broncos. Just frankly didn't live up to expectations. Though I doubt it's the case, Drew Lock seems like it could have been his fault. Because Drew Lock was playing like Mahomes half the games. The other times, this guy's playing like he frankly has no idea how to play football and he's fucking blindfolded. So it's very hard to do amazing with the inconsistency at the quarterback position. But then you have to incorporate the fact that this guy was just dropping the ball flat out. So it's not all Drew Lock's fault. It's only part. It's like half and half split here. But when you are getting 113 targets and you only pick up 52 receptions, that's not good at all. Even if Drew Lock is not putting it directly in the breadbasket, you are known to being a pretty solid catcher. Now, apparently, coming out of college, some people were doubting his pass catching ability. He was a very strong route runner, a very strong player, but they were doubting that, and maybe those doubts have came true in the NFL. In 16 games, he got, again, 113 targets for 52 receptions and 856 yards and 3 touchdowns. I do see a very big step up next year as well due to the fact that Courtland Sutton is going to be returning, and if he plays the whole year, at least a majority of the year, unlike this year, we'll see Jerry Jeudy get much softer coverage as Courtland Sutton is the clear one guy on the Denver Broncos. So I think that Jeudy will be better off in 2021, as well as if they get another quarterback. That's different, even though I'm not completely bought in or sold out on Drew Lock at the time. Now we are on pick number 16. Again, if you guys have ended up enjoying this video thus far, we're halfway through. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. At number 16, AJ Terrell is selected to the Atlanta Falcons, defensive back out of Clemson, who grades himself a B- grade. With Terrell, we see another guy who was put into a bad spot. The Falcons defense is about as helpful to Terrell as using a broken goddamn condom. The man was targeted 102 times, which is crazy in my opinion, and allowed 71 receptions, as well as getting 1 INT and 71 solo tackles. I feel like the Falcons made a good pick here because the defense was down tremendous. They needed players on defense, and drafting a guy like AJ Terrell, who slots in here to be a big playmaker for the team, I really liked the pick at the time. While he didn't perform up to what I thought he would be, I still like him a decent amount, so he earns a B- for me. Next pick here, we got the Dallas Cowboys selecting wide receiver CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. This is the first wide receiver where you can say it was a full-on goddamn hit like Gangnam Style in 2012. He gets the A. Lamb was the third receiver off the board, Coming into the draft, many had CeeDee Lamb as the #1 overall ranked wide receiver in the draft. Did he come out to be that? Maybe, maybe not. Again, these are just year 1 grades. CeeDee Lamb might fucking break his leg, knock on wood, you don't want that to happen, and never play good again. But based on his rookie season, this guy was good. Lamb was jolted into one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. Well, that is true, I guess. But then Dak got hurt, so he was in the high-scoring offense. Then it kind of turned to shit. Lamb played in 16 games, but only started 14. In those games, he had 111 targets for 74 receptions for 935 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. Even had 10 rushes for 82 yards and a touchdown. And this motherfucker had to deal with Dak Prescott, who's very good. But then he had to deal with Ben Gucci Danucci, Andy Dalton, and Gilbert Gottfried, Garrett Gilbert, and he almost had 1,000 receiving yards. I think if Dak is back and healthy like we believe he is, now again, this is under the assumption that the Dallas Cowboys bring Dak Prescott back. If they don't sign Dak Prescott back, I would be shocked. Even with the money it cost, it seems as though he is going to be worth it. So with Dak back, he's probably going to be a 1,200-plus yard receiver in 2021. And once Michael Gallup is gone after the 2021 NFL season, I expect amazing things from CeeDee Lamb in the future. So he gets an A. At pick 18, my Miami Dolphins select offensive tackle Austin Jackson out of the Trojans, USC. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh, I am for real. I do this every single time I talk about Justin Jackson. Any guy whose name is Jackson, last name is Jackson, I bring out the I'm sorry, Miss Jackson bars. Sorry about that again. Obviously, Jackson got hurt in this season, and he was not ultra impressive. He was not. He was so unimpressive that I forgot to put a grade on the screen. Austin Jackson got picked to a team where they needed an offensive tackle really badly, and it made a whole lot of sense for the Dolphins to select him. But again, he was not ultra impressive, but he didn't really disappoint with the injuries. I just didn't feel we had enough out of Mr. Austin Jackson to really give him a super high grade or a super low grade, because I'm not completely sold in on Austin Jackson. I really wasn't sold in on Mr. Jackson when we selected him at pick number 18 back in April. With 848 offensive snaps, he only allowed 4 sacks, so things could have been much worse for the Miami Dolphins. Again, as a Dolphins fan, I would have literally jizzed in my pants if we had drafted Justin Jefferson or something, or someone to help out Tua, but obviously Austin Jackson helps out Tua as well by protecting him, so I do like the pick here at 18, but I'm not super in love with it. Next pick here, we got Damon Arnette, cornerback out of The Ohio State University, to the Las Vegas Raiders, and he gets a D-. This seemed to be one of the dumbest fucking picks I have ever seen in the NFL draft. He was a player not being mocked very highly at all. I did like 20 mock drafts, and I honestly don't think I ever picked him inside of the first round. That's just what it was. Twitter exploded like when Jennifer Lawrence's nudes dropped on there when Damon Arnette was picked, because it made absolutely no sense. He had the 6th worst passing coverage grade in the NFL. Not too sure what Mike Mayock and John Gruden were smoking, what they were sniffing, but it was definitely some of that good. At the 19th pick, frankly, it made no sense. There was 17 zillion other fucking players you could have selected here at 19, and you went with Damon Arnette, and he broke out at the age of 24 coming into the NFL. Typically, you're not really looking to draft a guy that is that old, this high. To me, it didn't make too much sense then, doesn't make too much sense now. Didn't do anything special, kind of just didn't play very good at all. But again, maybe, just maybe, he's a 25-year-old breakout in 2021. Next pick here into the 20s, we got K'Lavon Chaisson out of LSU, one of the 7,000 LSU players taken inside of the first round. He got a C- grade from me. Chaisson came into the draft with very high praises, but those sung praises were not really answered to in 2020. But just like I said with his buddy CJ Henderson, I am not completely sure that it is all on him, because this Jaguars defense is one of the youngest defenses. I actually believe it is the youngest defense in the NFL. With that youngest defense, he got 13 solo tackles, 1 sack, 4 assisted tackles, and I feel like those numbers didn't show off how good of a player Chaisson is, but since I'm not just projecting his numbers, I'm reading you the real numbers, he gets a C-. Wasn't ultra impressive, but wasn't complete and utter dick, and I expect as this Jaguars defense grows, Chaisson is in for some big seasons going forward. At 21, we saw one of the worst picks in the draft. This was even worse, thinking back, than when they picked Ruggs. Because Jalen Reagor, man, oh man, I don't know what to think about him because he got a D+, but going into the draft, I was a huge fan of Jalen Reagor out of TCU. I honestly thought his skill set would transition so nicely, like that fade effect on PowerPoint, into the NFL. I really did, and when he joined the Eagles, I thought this was going to skyrocket his value straight into the fucking heavens, okay? In reality, it was actually the opposite. Playing in 11 games this season, this man was silent like the night Santa Claus brings all the kiddies gifts, all right? In those 11 games, this man has 54 targets for 31 catches for 396 yards and just 1 touchdown. Now, is this the fault of Reagor? I don't know. Is it the fault of Howie Roseman not knowing how to develop these guys? Is it the fault of the coaches? Is it the quarterback carousel in Philly? I don't know. But in the case of Jalen Reagor, when you're getting outperformed by Travis Fulgham, there is clearly a problem. Houston, we have a problem, but this was Philly, we have a problem. They have not drafted a good wide receiver in the first round in God knows how long. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside got picked there a couple of years ago. Reagor now just joining the box of bums that the Eagles have drafted at the wide receiver position. Could he turn it around based on his TCU performance? I think so. But based on what I've seen in the NFL, it's nothing special for Mr. Jalen Reagor. Next up, we have a real wide receiver, and call me Justin Jefferson, wide receiver out of LSU, I should say. A+, the gritty man himself. This guy is a fucking beast. Joe Burrow's right-hand man, besides Jamar Chase, who's going to get drafted probably top 5 this season. Jefferson was picked into being one of the greatest values in the draft at pick 22. A bunch of other wide receivers went before him, but he, in my opinion, is the best wide receiver in the class, bar none. He started the season with only 3 targets in his first 2 weeks, and it wasn't looking all that great for him. But then, week 3, up against Tennessee, this man unleashed all over the Titans, dropping 7 receptions on 9 targets for 175 yards and a tug. Jefferson began his ascension to greatness week 3 up against the Titans. From then on, this was a holy journey for Justin Jefferson, even on a team that's not even super pass heavy. The Vikings are a team that likes to run the ball with Dalvin Cook. This man was eating like Ezekiel Elliott, what I imagine at least that Zeke eats on Thanksgiving dinner. In 16 games, 14 games started, he put up 88 receptions on 125 targets and 1,400 yards and 7 total touchdowns. The numbers speak for themselves. Justin Jefferson is amazing, and that kind of leads to a guy like Jalen Reagor and Henry Ruggs getting thrown down the dumpster in my grades. Next guy up here, we got Kenneth Murray going to the Chargers out of Oklahoma linebacker. Now, if you are a fan of this team, of the Chargers, you probably have not stopped ejaculating from your eyes since draft day. Actually, on draft day, a lot of people, again, like me, were very sold out on Justin Herbert, but we all turned out to be completely wrong. He was very, very good, and Kenneth Murray was one of those guys that was projected to be very, very good as well, and it seems like he may be able to answer it. He's a part of a team that got down bad with injuries on defense. The whole defense dropped like flies, and Murray had a very solid defensive season, having 76 sole tackles and 25 assists plus 1 sack. I think that Murray fits very well inside of what should be a very strong Chargers defense in 2021, as long as they can remain healthy. A grade of 54.4 from PFF in 2020 does not really tell the tale of what Kenneth Murray is. I expect him to be much better in the future, and this Chargers defense is going to be feared in 2021. Again, bearing injuries, because I was really excited for them in 2020, and they all just fucking died. Fucking weeks, literally 2 weeks into the game. Not even into the season. They were getting hurt in preseason. It was very sad for the Los Angeles Chargers. Next pick up here, we got Cesar Ruiz going to the New Orleans Saints out of Michigan. Now, he was drafted as a center, but he actually played guard in the New Orleans Saints system and got a C from me. A lot of people on Twitter hate Cesar Ruiz, but I don't really necessarily feel that way. He did not allow a single snack on 744 offensive snaps. While those numbers aren't amazing, right? Those numbers are kind of amazing, right? But he did not the best in run blocking, pass blocking, and I don't know. I just don't feel like he deserves all the hate he was getting, though, to be honest. I think he's just an average player. You pick him at 24, he was the best center available, but they switch his position, so you can't expect him to be amazing when he's never fucking played the position that they switched him to at guard. So I don't even hate this pick. I just think it's about an average pick, and I think if they had drafted another skill position player, like giving another wide receiver to Drew Brees may have helped him more in his final season. But again, he wasn't getting bulldozed through like Lana Rhodes, so hey, he just feels about all right at a C grade for me. Next player here, we got Brandon Ayuk, round 1, pick number 25, wide receiver out of Arizona State, A+. Amazing. Similar to CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk was not given the liberty of having a real starting quarterback, kind of like how we talked about how it was Dak, it was Gucci Danucci, it was Gilbert, it was Andy Dalton, it was all these guys. Now, I'm not necessarily knocking Jimmy G, but I kind of am because I don't even think the 49ers view him as their future quarterback. We saw Nick Mullins, Jimmy G, and CJ Beathard all under center this season. Despite the spotty quarterback play, Ayuk was amazing. In just 12 games, 11 started. Ayuk blasted off straight to the fucking moon for 60 receptions on 96 targets for 748 receiving yards, plus 5 tugs, even being used as a Swiss Army knife with 6 rushes for 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. A question I now have to ask is he better than Deebo Samuel? Obviously, both on the same team, both very good. Not too sure about that, but hey, even as the number 2 wide receiver on the San Francisco 49ers, this guy has high, high hopes, like that song that I believe is by the Imagine Dragons. So, with better quarterback play in 2021, maybe with more consistent quarterback play, with him knowing who the quarterback's going to be on a weekly basis, because some games, the game starts and it's Beathard, then it's Mullins. Some games it's Mullins, then it becomes Beathard. It really didn't make too much sense, and with the defense getting injured, I think Ayuk could be very dangerous in 2021, and based off of his play strictly this year, and how I feel he will elevate his game in 2021, this is without a doubt an A+ pick. Him and Jefferson, he's up there with Jefferson as the best wide receiver in the draft, because again, he only played in 11 games and put up really big numbers. Next guy up here is Jordan Love out of Utah State, quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and he gets a C-. Now, he didn't do anything to deserve this, right? He was just drafted as Aaron Rodgers' replacement, but Aaron Rodgers went full-on State Farm discount double check all over defenses all season long. He could be the MVP of the NFL. That's how good he was playing. I didn't love this pick back in April because I was unsure why they did it. It seemed like Rodgers has a couple more years left. So it didn't make sense then. Doesn't really make sense now. They probably should have drafted a skill position, but I can't throw him down to be like a D or something because we've never even seen the guy play, and he could be the franchise quarterback after Rodgers potentially leaves in a couple of years, maybe even after next season. So Jordan Love was a good quarterback out of Utah State, but I don't really understand the pick if I am the Green Bay Packers, especially picking him at 26 when you probably could have just waited until the next round. Next guy up here is Jordan Brooks out of Texas Tech, linebacker. He got a C from me. This pick, when they made it, I was fucking laughing my ass off because it seems like the Seattle Seahawks just literally draw a name out of a hat in order to pick their first round selection every single year. That is honestly what it seems like, because it doesn't seem like that Pete Carroll gives a fuck about who he drafts, and he just does it, and we end up with one of these defensive players. Now, this guy wasn't the most special talent at linebacker, but he wasn't awful. And being on a team that really picked it up later in the season defensively, we could see a strong push in 2021 for Jordan Brooks. Again, at the time, I didn't really understand the pick. I still don't necessarily understand it because there was other players available, but it is what it is. He wasn't awful, so he gets a C. You know, and those C's get those degrees. Next guy up here, we got Patrick Queen, linebacker, LSU, for the Baltimore Ravens at pick number 28. We are nearing the end of the video, so please make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Patrick Queen earns a C+ grade. He had a pretty solid rookie season, though his tackling numbers were superb. He finished 89th rated linebacker out of 90 on PFF. Why? While he's able to get these big tackling numbers, this guy's pass coverage is fucking atrocious. It seems like This guy needs to do that Rocky chasing a chicken exercise that he did in one of those movies to learn how to tackle better. Because again, he has these high tackle numbers, but when the guy's coming towards him, this motherfucker's ankles get broken like the other guy's ankle breakers from 2K or something. It makes no sense. He literally got a terrible grade of 29.8 overall PFF grade, but I think this Ravens defense, as it's getting younger, this guy will continue to improve. He's in a very good spot to succeed, so C+ grade for Mr. Queen here, and the Baltimore Ravens next pick here at the 29th pick of the draft. Isaiah Wilson was selected, offensive tackle out of Georgia, and he gets a D-. I thought about giving this guy an F because his NFL season started off strong with an arrest. That's quite the opposite. Again, that's a joke. I don't even remember what he did. I think it may have been a DUI. I'm not going to put disrespect on this guy's name. If that wasn't it, I don't know. The guy was on the COVID list multiple times. He literally played like 5 fucking snaps on the year. So there's really nothing to talk about this guy. Didn't do anything. Got arrested. Doesn't look good for Isaiah Wilson, if I'm being honest with you. Not going to dub him as a bust yet. Maybe he'll be good next season with the corona stuff all fixed, but I really don't know what to think because we haven't seen him, and that arrest clearly affected his playing time in 2020. Next pick here from the Dolphins, Noah Igbahime, or Noah Iganoga. I don't even know how the fuck to say his name. I don't even know. I learned how to say his name, and I actually have said it correctly multiple times. But this guy is such a fucking bum that I don't even think his last name deserves to be said here. All right? As a Dolphins fan, I fucking hate this guy. He gets an F. Drafting a slot corner in the first round makes no fucking sense. He was targeted 28 times, allowing 17 receptions, with only 9 tackles for a 37.1 PFF grade. Right now, I'd rather have him returning kicks like he's done in this season. In 2 games, he returned 4 kicks for 68 yards, one off of being very nice. Frankly, I would have rather the Dolphins have drafted Chase Claypool or someone else, man. I don't know. Noah I was not a good pick. Oh man, there were so many guys available that I liked on defense, and they didn't take any of them at the time. I was infuriated, and based on what I've seen this season, I am still infuriated. Noah I, man oh man, maybe he'll turn it around. They're looking at him as a project kind of a player where, you take him in, you fucking draft him, and he's a project because, it takes a little bit of time for him to get it going, and maybe he'll get it flowing in 2021, and maybe he will slap me directly in the face, and I hope he does. I hope he's good as a Dolphins fan, but based on what I've seen out of Noah I do not like that, like my name was Kirk Cousins. Jeff Gladney was the next pick of the draft at pick number 31 to the Minnesota Vikings corner out of TCU, gaining a C+. Gladney was put into a dumpster fire of a defense, kind of like what we talked about with A.J. Terrell and a couple of other players like the Jacksonville Jaguars duo. Gladney had a couple of good games. He also had some bad games, but overall, he's just about average. Given this motherfucker's not the second coming of Deion Sanders, so I didn't really expect him being all that amazing, and I would have rather have had the Dolphins draft Jeff Gladney over that bum Noah I. This guy got a C+ rating, 95 targets for 68 receptions allowed. Again, a rookie cornerback in a COVID year. I'll give that excuse for everyone except for Noah I because that guy fucking sucks. Final player, CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, goes to the Kansas City Chiefs at the final pick of the first round, and that gets a B-. Helaire was the first running back selected in the 2020 NFL Draft, and he was touted highly by Coach Andy Reid, saying that he was as good as Brian Westbrook, which was complete and utter bullshit. Though, he didn't amaze me. 13 games played with 181 rushes for 803 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, as well as 34 receptions on 54 targets for 297 yards, acquiring over 1,000 total yards and 1 touchdown. Personally, I just was not wowed by CEH. Seems like he's going to get stuffed at the goal line for years to come. And it seems like when you're basing this off of a position where Cam Akers came after you, Jonathan Taylor came after you, J.K. Dobbins came after you, this just did not seem like the correct pick. But again, everything can change just a year from now, and I'm probably going to do this video again a year from now. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Let me know what I got completely wrong down below. I would really appreciate it because I love seeing negativity, and it does not necessarily negative as long as you're not like, fuck you, Nick, you dumbass. Why do you think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a B-? He's amazing. As long as you don't leave that, you give some nice constructive criticism. I love to read it. I love you all. Have a great rest of your guys' day. I hope you enjoyed this long video. Have a great rest of your guys' day. As always, goodbye.